Hello experts, Henry Lee here. I'm overseas, so this episode was recorded earlier than usual and before Donald Trump and Elon Musk, as predicted, fell out. We'll therefore cover that in more detail next week, including investigating claims Trump called Musk a keto-addled, fatso, Nepo baby rocket nerd who has to pay to get laid and last saw his kids in 1973, whose businesses are built by engineers who never get any credit because the great humble bragger Elon claims to be sleeping on the factory floor and not taking a salary, when of course he is borrowing against his stock to avoid income tax and makes billions of the companies go well. And US taxpayers who also get no credit but are allowed to pay twice for the services if they want to via subsidies to Starlink, then internet fees of just $9.99 per month. So chat next week. Meanwhile, enjoy the episode.
Yes, thanks, Henry. The Honk here at Instant Experts HQ back in Australia with a late-breaking update. Just moments ago, Elon Musk replied to Donald Trump saying he, quote, does not want to escalate an unfortunate war of words any further nor show any disrespect to the office of the presidency nor to Donald Trump personally, except to say that he's, quote, a disgusting Jabba-the-Hutt-looking motherfucker with breath even worse than the smell of his ass, if that's possible, since the cunt hasn't had bowel control since the late 80s. He's as authentic a Republican as O.J. Simpson was a widower. If he was any dumber, he'd be Kid Rock after having his brain run over by a monster truck. And the only good thing he has to say is that Jeffrey Epstein once told him Trump was a dynamite root, and that's saying something because Epstein had a three-way once with Donald Jr. and Eric Trump, while Donald Trump Sr. jerked it in a corner. Other than that, he has no further public comment and wishes the president well. As Henry says, we'll cover this all in more detail next week. And now, on with this week's show.
This week on Instant Experts, the rain from Ukraine falls mainly on Vlad's planes. Zelensky blows the shit out of Russia's long-range bombers.
And he was not even wearing a suit.
Republican airhead Marjorie Taylor Greene finally gets her own segment.
You know, if there was an Instant Experts Walk of Fame like in Hollywood, she would be getting her star today.
Except she'd think it was a square.
or a cucumber.
And the Ashes ticket controversy. Instant Experts is on the case.
And Henry, this one goes all the way to the top.
Welcome to Instant Experts. Dude, there's my cards edition. It's all the latest news explained by idiots, here to keep you sane in a crazy world. I'm Henry Lee, and as always, I'm here with my dear friend, The Honk. Honky, welcome.
Henry, a pleasure to be with you, in particular in our secret Melbourne studio. And what a week. I mean, we do say this every week, and this is a show about crooks, fuckwits, and morons. But, you know, increasingly I'm realising the great thing about crooks, fuckwits, and morons is they're so obviously crooks. They're so proud to be fuckwits, and they're mostly so unaware they're morons. They're just not very hard to find now. I mean, they more or less come to us, right?
That's for sure. And what caught your eye this week?
Well, I mean, it caught my eye, but it caught prime crook and fuckwit Vladimir Putin right between the eyes, as well as in the balls, the pancreas, the little eye at the top of the ding-dong.
That's called the Urethral Meatus. Did you know that?
I did not know that, but I imagine Putin is now well aware of the Russian equivalent.
And you're speaking, of course, of Ukraine's staggeringly successful assault on Russia's military hardware, including the bombers, but even more recently, a major bridge.
Yeah, so in the last 24 hours, you see, Ukraine has damaged the Kerch Bridge. Why does that matter? Because it links Russia to Crimea, which, remember, Russia illegally annexed from Ukraine. So it's a major artery for Russian military supplies.
Now, Honky, from memory, I think they've blown that one up before.
Yeah, you looked into this. They've done it twice, right? Didn't they do a truck bomb in 2022? They did a sea drone strike in 2023. And now they've done, what, underwater explosions, right?
It's a bit like the James Bond Olympics. They've done the compulsory moves, and now they're up to artistic expression.
Yeah, and they're expressing themselves. I mean, a couple of days before that this week, as you mentioned, Ukraine pulled off, I'm sure our listeners know, a staggering hit on 41 Russian military aircraft. Surveillance planes, bombers, Tu-95s, which were built to carry nukes but are now used for cruise missiles. So that is half of the 80 of Russia's such aircraft. Now, those 13 were destroyed. The rest were badly damaged. They did this at 5 different air bases, and the attacks on those air bases, 4 of those attacks were successful.
And they were thousands of kilometres inside Russia, these bases. One of the bases was right near Mongolia. It's nowhere near Ukraine.
It's incredible. Yeah, you said the planes were in Mongolia before. Now they're in outer Mongolia, and they're all over Ulaanbaatar.
It was 18 months in the planning, and the execution was not only daring, but highly insulting and revealing about the incompetence of Russian military intelligence.
Yeah, do you see how they did it? We talked about this. They used these trucks that were hiding drones that were stashed in these wooden sheds,
Right.
which they drove right up to outside these military bases. No one noticed a series of trucks pulling up.
I think they paid some Russians to do it.
Did they?
Russian stooges.
Oh,
yeah.
right. Oh, yeah, well, that makes sense. And the roofs of the sheds were removed by remote control, and then the drones launched, and they had what they call first-person view tech, so they're remotely operated from Ukraine. They're like a human video game, basically.
Right. And then they went in and blew up $7 billion worth of aircraft.
Yeah, and as we talked about just before, as humiliating as it is for Russia, and it's really humiliating, right? Because their whole shtick with Ukraine is Ukraine's a little guy and we're big and tough. And they're just demonstrating they're just not. It's possibly as embarrassing for Trump, right?
Yeah, you haven't got the cards. You haven't got the cards.
Yeah, you're referring to when Trump berated Zelensky in the Oval Office and screamed at him. He told him exactly that. He had no cards to play in his conflict with Russia. And apart from being famously sociopathically juvenile and rude, it turns out Ukraine was holding these cards after all. And in fact, they were holding these cards while he was in that Oval Office meeting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now there have been memes all over the place of Zelensky dressed for his next Oval Office meeting in a jacket this time, in fact, in a suit made of playing cards or covered in playing cards.
Yeah, I also like the Ukrainian media. I think it was a headline in one of the Ukrainian papers was Zelensky, like said, played, quote, the king of drones.
And Trump looks like even more of a buffoon than usual, which is not easy.
There's one other interesting thing, like that many other Ukrainian attempted attacks on Russian soil have happened. They haven't worked out. So why did this one work out? Well, one interesting reason is that unlike many of the other ones against Russia, Ukraine did not tell the US first. And somehow, magically, Russia had no idea. It's just fascinating stuff, isn't it?
Excellent. Well, we like to start the show each week by doing shout-outs to our instant experts all over the world. We've got experts all over Australia, of course. In particular this week, want to say hello to Amused of DY, who's been with us since week one.
Hello.
He's joining a growing list of listeners with nicknames. We had this last week. We had the Spice Man, Chainsaw Pete, the Moose.
You did.
A big hello to Jake, also from Woodlands in Melbourne. Jake told us our reference to the child catcher last week hit home, saying, quote, "The child catcher has provided me relentless nightmare fuel for 40 years. You and me both."
And Jake reminded us also that the child catcher was played by the legendary Australian dancer and actor, Sir Robert Helpman. I never knew this. In Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yes.
After whom the National Arts Award of Australia, the Helpman Awards, are named.
Yes. He was, amongst other things, I didn't know he was an actor, actually. I knew he was a ballet dancer. I didn't know that he was actually spotted by the great Russian ballerina Anna Pavlova,
right?
After whom the Pavlova is named.
Is that really why? Is that why it's called that?
Yeah, it was made by, I think, an Adelaide hotel when she was in Australia in 1926.
Don't the Kiwis always claim that it's theirs?
And he was spotted on that same tour. Maybe she went to New Zealand as well.
Right.
Don't know, bro. And then he trained with Dame Margot Fontaine, another very famous ballerina.
Yeah, wow. Well, I actually went and rewatched the clip during the week because, I know Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and I had completely forgotten he was in it. And he really, as you say, he really glides across the set in this beautiful way while also being fucking sinister as hell.
Yeah. And I remember the line last week of sweets and lollies, but Jake reminded us it's actually lollipops, chocolate, ice cream, all free today.
That is a bit chilling. Although I like sweets and lollies. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, it was very, very creepy. We've got listeners all over the world, of course. Haley, Idaho, a new location this week. That's just down the road from Sun Valley, former home of Bruce Willis and Demi Moore. They moved there in 1998.
Happier times.
Indeed. With France and Germany and Saint-Genis-Pouilly, Nord-Pas-de-Calais, excuse my pronunciation, and Frankfurt am Main, which is, Honky, be excited to know, home of the European Central Bank.
Oh, we're big fans here of the Basel Accords from a couple of weeks ago.
And as are they. It's also got the airport with the most direct routes in the world.
It's the Shane Warne of airports.
And home of the famous German writer Goethe.
Is he as boring? He's not nearly as boring as Kierkegaard, is he?
No, he's famous for his poem Faust. And he was also, oddly enough, discovered the intermaxillary bone in the nasal cavity.
I thought Donald Trump Jr. discovered that. Discovered that bone the hard way.
He broke his.
Oh, yeah. I see. Right.
No,
but is that really a true story?
Yeah, true story. He was a polymath, Goethe.
Oh, so he wasn't a doctor?
Das Polymath.
Wasn't a medical doctor?
He was a poet. He was a
wow.
writer, but he did a lot of stuff. And Honky, one of my favourite locations is back. Ougadougou.
Wow.
Or should I say Ougadougou? Where's Inner West Karen when we need her?
Henry, Inner West Karen does not work for you. She's an independent woman, and I'm sure she does not want to marginalise the people of West Africa in that patronising way.
Well, I apologise, Honky, and sorry, Karen, if you're out there and listening, you're welcome back anytime. And finally, a big hello to Louise from Brisbane.
Yes.
Who sent us a voicemail this week with an excellent question asking for our advice.
Let's take a listen.
Hey, long-time listener, first-time commenter. Just wanted to ask your advice about going to America. I'm just a bit afraid, and I was just wondering how many bags should I take? I'm just a bit unclear about what is the regulation amount of bags I should arrive with. Thanks.
Well, that's a terrific and timely question, Louise. And the answer is it depends on three things. What type of fare you're flying on, what is in the bags, and who the bags are for. You see, ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, publishes a detailed schedule, and as at close of business yesterday, no illicit drugs of any kind can be brought into the United States with only the following exceptions. ICE is allowed if you give half of it to ICE agents.
They've got to pay the school fees somehow, right?
Bags of Coke are limited to personal use only.
That's on a saver fare. It's only 7 kilos of Coke, which is barely anything, right?
But you can increase the limit to 14 kilos for an extra $50.
Wow, that's actually a pretty good deal. That's a good deal.
Yeah.
And if it's going to Donald Trump Jr., I think you get 2 checked bags up to 23 kilos of Coke plus a surfboard packed by Chappelle Corby. Is that right?
And what about fentanyl, Honky? Any intel there for Louise?
Well. Similarly, fentanyl, I think you're only allowed to take it. Starts getting complicated. You're only allowed to take it from the US to Canada, but not from Canada to the US.
Right. But RFK wouldn't mind a shot if there's one going.
Well, it's been a while. It's been too long, right?
Yeah, I mean, he gave up heroin, not living.
Exactly. I mean, you beautifully put. Yeah.
Bags of Adderall, straight to Trump.
He doesn't need it.
No. Bags of cash, see above.
He does need those. Well, He doesn't need those, but he likes them. He likes them.
Yeah. Anyway, you get the idea, Louise. Just under no circumstances let the ICE agents know that you listen to this podcast.
Yeah, otherwise you'll be listening to it from a wonderful cell in El Salvador.
Honky, we also like our apologies.
We haven't had a really good apology in a couple of weeks, but this is a good one. A listener got in touch about an Eric the Viking voicemail we played, I think, a couple of shows ago, where Eric explained he was so heartbroken in Greenland over his love for US Second Lady Usha Vance that he had now taken to drinking mead.
And I said that mead was old school for beer.
And I just love it when Henry gets it wrong, because it turns out, in fact, mead is a honey-based wine.
Which I had no idea about. And I'm not too proud to admit a mistake, Honky. And it's always good to learn something too. So
yes.
I'd like to thank our mead drinker / listener, King John, for messaging us from the 13th century.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Message only took a fortnight to get to us as well.
Well, technology, they've got the 5G at the castle now.
Right.
That's 5 pigeons instead of 1, so it gets you much faster.
Now, I'm obviously not sensitive to listener criticism, but I just want to say that John was a famously terrible king.
That's actually true, right?
Yeah, he came to power after the death of his brother, Richard the Lionheart.
Yes.
And he was known for heavy taxation, military failures, notably losing Normandy to the French, and conflicts with the barons and the church.
These are timeless qualities. I mean, next up, the Trump cabinet, surely.
John was so bad they made him sign the Magna Carta, which basically gave power to the nobles and the people, not the king.
Indeed. And he did, in fact, sign. That's right. And the barons, the story goes, famously held a sword to his testicles, more or less said in Middle English, are you going to sign the fucking thing or what?
Ye oldie, are you going to sign the fucking thing?
Yeah.
Which he did, and then he later renounced, a bit like a Trump trade deal, so...
But he's also often been accused of delay in signing the Magna Carta.
Right.
But it actually wasn't delay. As we now know, he was just listening to the whole Instant Experts. He wanted to listen to the whole episode.
Rumours are he signed with the famous auto pen as well.
It could have been the auto pen, which was the delay. Interesting.
Indeed, yeah. So the point is, I'm not sure we should be listening to this mead-drinking listener, King John.
There's only one problem with your analysis about King John, which is, in fact, the listener who pointed this error out to us is, in fact, a woman.
Oh, well, excuse me, Your Majesty. Now... In my defence, John's mother was the famous Eleanor of Aquitaine, who was the Queen of France from 1137 to 1152, as I'm sure you know.
That's, of course, yeah.
Who was also husband of Henry II, and I'm sure she was calling on John's behalf, because mums are good like that.
Actually, I think you'll find the Queen makes her own calls, and anyway, it was feminist icon Joan of Arc who called in.
Oh, Inner West Karen is back. Karen, I hate to break it to you, but the listener was in England, not France.
Je ne serai pas réduit au silence. Je suis au côté de Joan.
Inner West Karen has been on the Mead again, watching SBS.
Excuse me, I've been taking French at the Leichhardt Yoga Centre.
Anyway, thank you, listener. We do appreciate the correction. I will never forget that mead is honeyed wine, not beer.
Yes.
Anyway, the show's almost over time. We've barely started, so let's get into American carnage. The big piece of American carnage this week is our old friend Elon Musk.
Yeah, and he himself is the carnage this week. I mean, he's finally left his duties in the Trump administration, thank God. Thought it would never end. Allegedly on the basis he could not serve more than 120 days without Senate confirmation.
Which he was studiously avoiding, of course.
Yes, in fact, on the basis that he sucked cocks in hell and everyone hated his guts at exactly the same time.
Indeed, he, of course, was responsible for DOGE, the alleged Department of Government Efficiency.
Yeah, where he achieved what?
Well, absolutely nothing. Say it again. Yes. We documented many of his fuck-ups on the show, so we won't repeat them. But it all culminated with the one big, beautiful bill, which we covered last week, which actually increased the deficit.
What a triumph.
Which is entirely contrary to the object of him joining.
Yeah, and he's very helpfully, now that he's completely fucked up, he's announced that he's pulling back from political spending after spending, let's not forget, $270 million on the Trump campaign to look like a complete fuckknuckle and to tank sales and value of Tesla, of which he's the CEO, which is his real job.
And his board had to tell him to turn up to work.
Yeah.
He also blew $20 million on that Wisconsin judicial campaign. Remember that one?
Oh, God. So I love him deciding he's decided to withdraw from US politics. I mean, him withdrawing from US politics reminds me to announce that I've decided I will not be available for selection to the free solo climb for Mount Everest this weekend without oxygen.
No, and I won't be able to take Margot Robbie to next year's Oscars, even though she keeps not calling to ask me.
Tragedy, absolute tragedy. And of course, it hasn't taken long for the bad blood, has it, between Musk and Trump to set in?
No, it's grin fucking 101. They praise each other at his exit event in the Oval Office.
Where he had a black eye. What was that about?
Yeah, that was strange. He said that it was caused by his kid, Xaverox 3000, the self-driving robot child.
What about another friend of the show?
We've met him before, exactly.
Yeah, in fact, though, it's actually reported to be he was punched in the face by the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. Isn't that the apparently real story?
Is it? I mean, if you think about the suspects, he sacked about 20,000 people, so I reckon there'd be 20,000 suspects.
Yeah, and that's not including the people who hated his guts that he worked with, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, but I love how, so they were sucking each other off in the Oval Office, but within a day this week, I love how these stories started magically appearing in the press about the extent of Musk's drug use in the White House, specifically ketamine. It's pretty gross. Like, apparently he was doing so much that he started suffering known bladder problems that are known to occur, including incontinence.
Right. He suffered from tremendous incompetence as well, as far as I can tell.
Yeah. And, of course, Musk himself restrained himself about criticising Trump for about 48 hours.
Yes, and then he unloaded, right?
Oh, yeah. What did he say? What did he do?
Well, as I say, the big, beautiful bill came out, and Musk tweeted as follows, quote, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination.
Whoa.
Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it."
Well, the main thing to say about
that sounds like King John correcting me about Mead.
It really does. But the main thing to say about this is what, right?
Well, we foresaw the breakup weeks ago in Instant Experts.
We really did. I mean, he's forgotten the golden rule, right, of Trump world, which is there's only ever one hero in the Trump story.
Correct.
And if you're not sure who it is, it's sure as fuck not you.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it this way. There are some lessons in life you pay for and some you get for free.
Yeah, this one only cost him $300 million.
Exactly. And as we know, it could not happen to a nicer bloke.
It really could not.
Okay, quick shots, Honky. We said it at the top. US Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia, a famous moron, as well as a fuckwit. And we've been itching for an opportunity to get her on the show.
We really have, but the problem is she's such a moron that she's even outranked in her political office by the other morons that we normally showcase. She's basically unemployable in any leadership role because she's such a moron and such a fuckstick that we just haven't been able to get to her.
Anyway, Honky, being a crook, fuckwit, a moron, wanting to get on Instant Experts is like being a cricketer wanting to play for Australia.
That is true, yeah.
You've just got to keep making runs and knocking on the door, and the door will open at some stage.
She did it. She
made another century this week, really, didn't she? Talk us through it.
So she was appearing on TV complaining about something insane about Nancy Pelosi.
US government surveillance.
Yeah, US government surveillance that was being overseen by the senior Democratic Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi. And she was trying to compare it to the Nazi secret police.
The Gestaatspolizei.
Yeah, that's right. Nice German. The Gestapo for short. But it didn't quite work out that way if you have a listen to this little clip.
Not only do we have the D.C. jail, which is the D.C. gulag, but now we have Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho police spying on members of Congress, spying on the legislative work that we do, spying on our staff, and spying on American citizens that want to come talk to their representatives.
Wow. Honky, I know this is a very sensitive area for you. What's your reaction to that?
Well, look, what can I say? Look, I'm Jewish. I lost most of my family in the Holocaust. So to hear her throw words around like gazpacho is really upsetting to me. And look, we're Jews from Eastern Europe, right? Food is important to us. And we like hot, hearty dishes to get us through the cold of winter. You know, steaming bowls of borscht, goulash with crusty bread. For them to kill us en masse as they did with cold soup was an unbelievable and deliberate insult.
Cold indeed, cold-blooded.
I just want to depict for you what it's like if you've lost your family in the Holocaust, you know, and to the gazpacho. I can't go past the fruit and vegetable market without covering my eyes. If I see one tomato or garlic, I'm a wreck.
Now, Honk, the Nazis had the Gestapo, but they also had the Schutzstaffel.
They did.
The SS. Do we think the gazpacho is acting alone here?
No, I think there are collaborators with the gazpacho all over Europe.
Right.
In Holland, you've got the Stroopwafel, which is killing freedom with sweet caramel sandwich between soft cookies of death. I mean, it's just fucking outrageous. Italy, overrun by the Panzanella tanks. The mix of vegetables, bread and anchovies, spreading hatred and murder.
The Italian dictator, Benito Mozzarella.
Oh, he was the worst. And, you know, everyone's talking about the spread of anti-Semitism and Nazi behaviour in the US. Imagine how it feels for me as a Jew to go to the US and see the Hitler hotel chain everywhere I go. Not just the normal Hitler hotels, but Doubletree by Hitler, Hitler Garden Inns and Suites, Conrad Hitler.
Not Conrad.
They're everywhere. The whole thing is just so Goering.
So, Marjorie Taylor Greene, thank you. Thank you for your work for Instant Experts. Please come again.
Oi, I mean, as if that wasn't the entertainment news. Now we actually move to the actual entertainment news. Taylor Swift, you may have heard, bought back all the rights to her first 6 albums.
Right. Didn't Trump say she was basically a loser and not hot anymore?
She's been a bit quiet the last couple of months, but let's just put it in context. The reason she's been a bit quiet is because she just completed 2 years performing the biggest fucking music tour in human history, which grossed $2 billion.
Just the two.
Of which she used $360 million to buy back the rights to her first 6 albums, that is from the self-titled album through to Reputation. And she thanked all the fans that came to see her Eras tour for helping her do it. Now she owns the rights to every aspect of her music and associated rights. She's quite possibly now the first artist in music history ever to achieve that.
Yeah, and the good news is she'll be able to rip herself off now.
Yeah.
Because she won't need a label to do it for her.
She can do it to herself.
No Scooter Braun.
She can do creative accounting. She can do it all. She can do it all.
Honky, but the big news in entertainment, wasn't it, was the loss of an icon.
Yeah, and obviously, I'm guessing you're talking about the character actress Valerie Mahaffey from Northern Exposure. She played Eve to Adam Arkin's Adam, the ones that always took Joel Fleischman captive in the forest. That's who you mean, right?
I don't know who that is. I remember the show.
The only other person you must mean is the late, great Rick Derringer, great rock artist and guitarist. He was the songwriter, of course, of wrestling's greatest ever theme song, which was Hulk Hogan's theme song, Real American.
I don't know who he is, and I don't know the song, actually.
Have you ever left the house? How's this possible?
I have. That's why I wasn't watching.
This is the national anthem of
I
Hulk
spent
Hogan.
all my days watching wrestling.
I don't
Shocking as that may.
You think you know a person, honestly.
No, Honky, we mean the late, great Loretta Swit, who was Margaret Hotlips Houlihan on MASH.
She was.
Yeah.
She was 87.
Yeah. And she, a lot of the key characters in MASH got replaced, as you recall. The Colonel got replaced.
Henry Blake was replaced by Sherman Potter.
Sherman Potter, that's right.
And who was the first buddy, the sidekick of Hawkeye?
Trapper John.
Oh, yeah, and he got replaced by...
He became BJ Honeycutt.
Yes,
replaced
that's
by
right.
Mike Farrell from memory.
But she was in every...
And even the annoying guy that got replaced as well.
Frank Burns.
Frank Burns got replaced by...
Charles Winchester. Yeah.
David Odkin.
But not Houlihan, not Margaret Hotlips Houlihan, not Loretta Swit.
She was there for the entire 11 seasons from 72, great year, 72, to 1983.
Yes.
She won the Emmy twice for the role.
She did.
And she was nominated for the Emmy every single year she was on air. Quite an achievement.
It's quite an achievement. If you're a kid in the 70s or 80s, or frankly for the next 20 to 30 years, I mean, she has been a part of your life.
Yeah, and I remember finding it, when you're a kid and you can't pick up nuance. I just thought she was a totally annoying character. But she sort of evolved over the show's history, didn't she?
Yeah, she was like a sort of groundbreaking female character because early on she was like the sex symbol and the butt of all the sexist jokes. And then she became this really whole rounded character as sort of the show morphed from sort of comedy to drama.
Yeah, she's not going to sleep with you, Hoggy. She's dead.
Really, I was trying to. I thought I had one last shot. That's why I was going for the wholly rounded character horse shit. I forgot it was a tribute.
Anyway,
she's not touring.
A little tribute to her down the back of the show.
Yes, indeed.
Honk, in sports news, which is usually my domain, you've got the top story this week. You talk us through it.
And not for no reason. That's right, Henry. And I'm looking at you when I tell this story. I'm speaking, of course, of the Ashes. And the Ashes are the biennial grudge match in cricket between historical rivals England and Australia.
Yeah, that's correct. Every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
Yeah, taking turns and locations. They're only in Australia once every 4 years.
So specifically, they're back on in Australia this year, like in December, January. And this is just for Australian listeners. This is the hottest sporting ticket in Australia.
That's right.
They sold more than 300,000 tickets to the Ashes tour on the first day.
Well, that's right. There were virtual queues of up to 200,000 in the Ticketek waiting room.
Yeah.
I was 198,000th at
Whoa.
one point for Boxing Day.
And in a huge scandal, perhaps for the first time, tickets to the Test match, in particular in Adelaide, have proved near impossible to get. There have been these headlines like irate cricket fans vent their fury after Ashes ticket chaos.
Right. So where's this story going, Honky?
The reason is because of scalpers.
Right. That's a shame.
A shame. This is appalling. This is unsportsmanlike. This is as un-Australian as it gets. I mean, try to understand. This is peak Australian summer holidays. This is precious family time. Dad's had a hard year. He wants to see the kids. Mum loves cricket all her life. This could be the last year Granddad's still here to go along.
Yeah, lay it on.
Yeah. And it's not just Australia. This is thousands of people coming from England for this game. You got Matt from Liverpool, right?
Yeah.
Young dad.
Yeah.
Back near Christmas 2004.
Yeah.
His kid was born in St George's Hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, St George's Hospital.
You said that.
Yeah. Matt had to fight the dragon to get in.
They had to fight the dragon to get in.
Yeah, touch and go.
Yeah.
His wife had an emergency Caesar. She almost died at the bloody claws of the dragon.
Right.
Till Matt got there and cut the head off the serpent.
Right.
With the serpent, the dragon's head still wiggling in his hands.
Yeah.
The kid's barely made it, but he made it.
Yeah.
And he's standing with the blood dripping down onto the floor of the hospital room.
Yeah.
And it's a boy. And
Right.
with tears in his eyes, Matt makes a promise to the kid that day. Takes off his chainmail, which has rusted because of the amount of the tears. He puts down the sword, puts down the head.
Yeah.
The head's wiggling all over the floor.
Yeah.
The arm is rusty, like I said. And he made a promise that day. He said, "Son, I can't do a Liverpool act." He said, "Son, you know where it's going. Don't walk out of the room. Son, I will take you to Adelaide Oval for the Ashes when you turn 21." That was his promise. Right. Except Matt couldn't get a ticket, could he? And why?
Why?
Because of you. Henry Lee, I accuse. In the words of Karen, Inner West Karen, I accuse. J'accuse. You are that scalper. Admit your crimes.
All right, Honky.
Do I have you?
That was a little dramatic, but yes.
No, it's not dramatic. It was what was appropriate for the appalling crime.
I can explain everything.
I would start talking if I were you.
Yeah, okay. So I go to the Adelaide for the cricket every year. It started as a few mates, and now it's
must be nice. Must be nice for some you get to go to the cricket.
Father, son as well.
Yeah.
And so this year we needed 9 tickets for day one and another 10 for day two.
Okay.
One of the mates, one of the guys in the party said, "No problem. He'll get his EA to organise it."
Mm-hmm.
He's a corporate big shot, so he's got an EA.
Okay.
He's made it simple for her. We need 10 tickets each day. 10 for day one, 10 for day two.
Yeah.
As of yesterday, just before tickets go on sale, he'd heard nothing.
Gotcha.
So he messages me and say, we need to get on and buy them ourselves.
Yeah.
He was going to get day one. I was going to get day two.
Right. So where are we in the queue at this point?
I was 19,000th in the queue, literally, and he was 24,000th.
Right.
So I said, I'll get day one instead. In higher demand, he'll get day two.
Yeah.
Then I had tech problems. So
the old tech problems.
The old tech problems. Who's ever had tech problems on Ticketek? Anyway,
Never.
So I said he should try for day one.
Yeah.
Then I sorted the tech problems.
Yeah. This is how the scalping happens. You bamboozle everybody with the bullshit story.
So I said, don't worry about day one. I'll get day one. You, mate, go back to day two.
Gotcha. I can feel where this is going, by the way.
Yeah, exactly right. So we both end up getting day one.
Uh-oh.
He also gets day two.
Yeah.
And then he checks his messages.
Uh-oh.
And it turns out he has a very capable EA.
Yeah.
Who has come through with the 20 tickets 15 minutes before either of us logged on.
Right.
So the upshot is we were trying to get 9 tickets for day one and 10 for day two. That's 19 in total.
Comma, Your Honour. Yeah, 19 in total, yeah.
Yes.
And you ended up with?
48.
So
instead of 9, we ended up with 28 tickets for day one.
Yeah.
And instead of 10, we had 20 tickets for day two.
And that's your evidence, is it? That's your evidence? That's how you're not a scalper. Anyway, if you're looking for tickets, listeners, or alleged poor Matt and his son from alleged Liverpool.
Or the dragon.
Or the headless dragon.
Yeah.
Headless dragon, get in touch with the show because we can Henry hopefully can sort you out. You better have a fucking ticket for Inner West Karen.
Check your privilege, Honky. You don't just get a ticket for...
Yeah. I prefer to give the ticket to a person who needs it, a person of BIPOC background who when I drive through Redfern, I lock the car windows, but because I'm a shocking racist, but performatively I'd like to be heard to say that I want to give the ticket to...
if there's a cricket fan out there in Ougadougou.
Ouagadougou, let us know.
Well, folks, mercifully, that's all we have time for.
Thank God.
Find us in all the usual locations on social.
Yes.
Share in your WhatsApp groups. It really helps us. Rate the show on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, but only if it's 5 stars.
Yes, please.
Leave us a voicemail. The link to our site's in our show notes.
Yes.
The little notes on the podcast platform.
You can send us a text on our show notes too. We love to get a text.
Yes.
And try to read our show notes if you can. If you can bear it, we've even included a few more stupid jokes in the show notes. So have a look.
Excellent. Now, we said we'd wrap it with a little audio tribute to Hot Lips Houlihan and MASH.
Maybe a little surprise after that.
Yeah, but what else have we got, Honky? You've got something in mind?
Well, look, to take us out, we normally, as you say, we often play a musical clip or a sort of an particular audio clip. We do give Donald Trump a lot of shit on this show for his ridiculous statements, crazy ideas. Yeah, but the question is always, can he be...
He's our spirit animal, basically.
He is our spirit animal.
Yeah.
Can he be as stupid, as impulse controllers as we say he is? And the answer is...
No, he's worse.
It's true. He is worse. This you're going to hear is from a gentleman named Miles Taylor. And this poor bastard had the misfortune of being the Deputy Chief of Staff in the Department of Homeland Security in Trump's first term in office.
Right, and Trump's first term was the term where he hired normal people like General Kelly and people who actually had qualifications for roles.
Indeed.
That they were doing.
And what happened?
Not just eating animals.
No, what happened? And they
all quit within somewhere between an hour and 2 weeks.
Yeah, so this guy, Miles Taylor, was a grizzled veteran. I think he lasted 2.5 weeks.
Right.
He was a grizzled veteran of the first term.
Right.
Anyway, this is Miles Taylor appearing on an Australian news show relating, this is true, a phone call he received from the great man, President Trump himself. Really just got to be heard to be believed.
Yeah, it pretty much sums it up.
It really does.
So enjoy the clip. We'll be back next week in one form or another. It could be an experimental episode, given I, Henry, will be gallivanting at the cricket at Lord's.
Oh, how'd you manage to come into tickets? Funny that. Is anybody else? Is it just you? All of Lord's, just you with all the tickets?
If it's just me and one other guy, I have no defence.
Yeah.
Thanks for your company as always. Enjoy the clip. Back next week because stupid never sleeps.
Stupid never sleeps. Thank you for your company, and listen to Miles Taylor, and just thank God that he had to go through it and you did not.
During one phone call with Secretary Nielsen, Trump came up with a novel solution to stop the flow of migrants coming into the United States.
And she puts the president on speakerphone, and he says that down at the border, he wants to explore what it would take to build a moat. And he goes off on this tangent talking about how we should actually get snakes and alligators and fill this 2,000-mile moat on the border with reptilian creatures so that if someone falls into the moat, they're facing the threat of snakes and alligators who might come after them. I mean, we're just laughing. You can't make this shit up.
What are you thinking when the President of the United States is enunciating this idea?
Yeah, he's a fucking idiot. He's just a fucking idiot.
Last night was just another joke, just another lie to Major Houlihan.
How can we be honest with you? You're like a cat waiting for the mice to make a mistake so you can pounce.
Let's face it, Major, you don't trust us. And do you trust me? You act like I'm the enemy.
All right. If I had asked your permission last night, what would you have done?
I would have said no. Not because it's against regulations, but because of the rotten way you've treated me. Did you ever show me any kind of friendship? Ask my help with a personal problem? Include me in one of your little bull sessions? Can you imagine what it feels like to walk by this tent and hear you laughing and know I'm not welcome? Did you ever offer me a lousy cup of coffee?
We didn't think you'd accept.
Well, you were wrong.
Train, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, be true to yourself, true to your country, be a real American. Whew.
Yeah, he's a fucking idiot. He's just a fucking idiot.